going to talk about what we call behavioral anchors, things that you have in the organization that really anchor the goals and objectives of the organization. You really want to have as much as possible in evidence-based leaderships. That's a big deal. Now, the difficulties you have is that we are humans. Humans are more than just processing machines. We're not artificial intelligence. We're not a computer. We're not a robot. We actually have an entire personality that we bring in. We're part of that human capital component. Decisions should be based upon logic, not upon emotions, but emotions play an important role. Now, you're not going to see a lot of this in the actual book, but the execution should be part of include the emotions as a driver in there. If you want more information, check out my book, Backbone-ology. I dive into that topic an awful lot. Decisions are based upon the logic located here, and keep the emotions out of the decision, but you bring the emotions in to drive that decision forward because you should feel passionate about what your organization is doing. If you don't, maybe you should get out. That may not be for you. You always want to have something that you absolutely love, those type of things. Elon Musk is certainly a controversial figure in many different aspects. Nobody could ever say Elon Musk is lazy. Well, I guess you could say it, but you wouldn't be telling the truth. Elon Musk works 90 to 100 hours a week. Why does he do that? Well, either he's crazy, that's possible, okay, but he loves what he's doing. If you love what you're doing, those emotions are driving that logic forward because you're passionate about it, and the passion takes the logical decision and it moves it forward, and people come along with it as you go. So that's a critical part of it. Really, we look at some of the anchors. You have a systematic research anchor. You want to see how you use research to develop your decisions, and you have a practical orientation, and that really is where organizational behavior theories come into the organization. You also bring in the aspect of a multidisciplinary anchor, which is what really org behavior is about. You have sociology, you have psychology, and you have business all interacting to try to sit there, develop the finest organization, retain the best employees, making certain the needs of the employees are met while also meeting the needs of the organization. So both of them are brought forward and they turn into one thing to combine a solid organization. Contingency anchors, just so you know, no matter what happens, a contingency is this doesn't work here, so I'll try this over here. That's part of life. Sometimes you're pedaling as fast as you can and you aren't getting any traction over here. So I'm going to try this over here. So you try something else, and by golly, that works. Much to your surprise. It's called the contingency. Have other alternate plans. You may have a plan to run your department this way. I want to have all the procedures and all the policies followed every single step of the way. But the reality is they're slacking off in the back corner, not paying attention to you. You over there, pay attention. Okay, and that doesn't work. Sometimes you have people, you don't have to ever give them direction because they're great employees. And this one over here, they sure talk a good game, but you got to sit down and say, okay, just so you know, here's your objectives, and you didn't meet any of them this last week. Now, I need you to do it. I want you to report to me every single day. This person you haven't talked to in 2 months, and they still do their job fabulously. This one you have to give clear direction every single day. It just depends on the person. It's called a contingency. Recognize the effectiveness of an action. In this case, talking about how you deal with a person, but that's a big thing. And then multiple levels of an analysis anchor. You look on 3 different levels of the analysis: the individual, that person over here, how they integrate with the team, and then how that team integrates as part of an entire organization. 3 different levels. You're always paying attention to the individual, the team, and the whole organization, making certain they're all meshing together and the same message is being carried forward, and that you're all working to have this one common goal of a product or service to your end client, whether it's a profit, nonprofit, or whatever you are. You want to make certain you have a consistent philosophy delivering when you go through the very end to your end customer. Have an inclusive workplace. Value people of all identities. Good night. When you sit down and you have different kinds of people, different perspectives on it, I'm not talking about the outer part. I'm talking about the thing in here. You want to have people that think differently from you. I love having somebody that comes up with different ideas. Sometimes I look at them and think, huh? How come I never thought of that? Those are all things I prefer to have intelligent people that I'm working with that can make me a better person and also a better decision maker. It's called diversity. It's really called cognitive diversity, and you want to have that. Different values that they bring to the table. You have that and use it as a valued resource and look at it as an individual, but also at a collective level. A lot of times diversity is surface level. I'm into cognitive diversity. I think it's a much better role. Pick people's brains, make them think and contribute. Your quality of your decisions will be far superior than the politically correct diversity, which is cute, but it really doesn't accomplish anything. Make certain that you get the brains functioning. Yes, you may have a politically correct group, but at the end of the day, you want to have that diversity. You want them contributing for the final product. Make certain you're getting different niche markets in your organization, that you're addressing those different kinds of customers when you go through, and that way you're more successful, big picture wise, and we'll talk about that type of success later on. Benefits of diversity: you have better decisions, better attitudes, better team performance, better creativity. And that's a big deal. A better representation of what the community around you. If you go involved and look at affirmative action really in California has been voted down twice by voters as recently as 2019 in the state. But the reality of affirmative action, the goal is to have your organization look at least 80% about the diversity of the community around you. That makes an awful lot of sense because the community are the ones you're serving and providing the service or product to them. And you may also have a moral, and we'll talk about the legal imperative that's involved with that as well. But overall, I think the biggest thing that you have, and you'll see me push this, I believe in this wholeheartedly, treat everybody with dignity and respect. That's a big thing because they're an individual and they will always bring something clear to the table that you may not have had before without that person. Diversity, sometimes no matter what happens, I already mentioned this before, teams take longer and they're slower, but you get to work together. You know what? If you have a team working on an idea and the team comes up with, let's do this. Well, wait a minute. I want to add this over here. All of a sudden, if the team adopts it, that person that felt with the outside, all of a sudden now they're on the inside. If you keep on layering things and you have everybody contributing to a vision, an overall vision, we call that a shared vision. If you have a shared vision, then people that have had input in creating that vision, they'll want to carry that vision forward themselves and they become owners of the decision. That's what you want to have in an organization where everybody feels included, then everybody's carrying the vision overall forward and being successful. Really what helps it reduce conflict, you have really, by the time you're all done, people are sharing things more and their morale's higher as a group. Instead of having some type of dysfunctional well, I don't agree with that. You go on, I've seen those meetings. A key thing, and this is about meetings just for a second, when I lead a group, okay, I will at the end, before I close the group, I go around the entire table in that group. Do you agree with that? Anything else you want to add? Anything else you want to add? And then I always make certain the person that sat in the corner, they have input into the final decision. I didn't hear you say anything. What are your thoughts on this? Now, I do it for two reasons. Number one, sometimes somebody's sitting back and they have this huge thought and they're thinking, and they finally open up and they add something. The other part is I don't dare want them to leave and say, nobody asked my opinion. You're better off spending a little bit of time making certain you ask everybody their opinion so they can't sit there and backstab the entire committee saying, nobody asked me. Well, you're part of the committee. What's your problem? That's why I go through and I make sure, I always want to make certain that everybody in that room, they have an opportunity to have input before we go forward as a team. I want them all to own the decision. And then when we all own the decision, we can then all go forward as a team to accomplish it. Work-life integration, it's a big thing. You try to integrate the different aspects of your personal life and the work life. You know, it's interesting. I was in a meeting called Leadership Oakland. And Leadership Oakland is a community leadership program where we train future leaderships from across the entire community. And we're in a meeting and Margot talked. Now, nobody liked Margot because Margot was always negative. We're all talking about, you know, we need to make certain that all these people that are rising executives and the big three motor car company and everything else, and we need to make sure they spend time with their family. And then Margot tosses out there something over there. Well, why? We all look at her as a board. We're thinking, okay, Margot, there she goes again. She's some of the greatest minds on planet Earth had rotten work-life balance. They focused entirely on the work itself. They didn't have a good family life. They weren't home. And if you go through, she started setting up person after person after person. She finally came to Beethoven. I think Beethoven is one of the greatest classical composers of all time, especially the Ninth Symphony. Because Beethoven had to spend time on his piano. Even when he was stone deaf, the neighbors would come into his house every other week, drag him out and it's kicking and screaming, literally it's true, to give him a bath. He wouldn't eat. They had to feed him half the time. He was so consumed by what he was doing. But years after, a couple hundred years later, people still sit down and listen to him because he didn't focus on work life. He did nothing but work. So why do we have to sit down and buttonhole everybody in work life integration? You might want to think about that. Some of the people that have left their marks on history were totally consumed with the work they had, and they had rotten personal lives. So you'll see that. So work life, it just depends what you want in your life. And we'll talk more about career pathways. So it's really hard to integrate the two roles. Make certain you align the work and the non-work roles. Now we have in the emerging workplace, this remote work. Like there's positives and negatives to it. You can sit down and do a good job working away, except for the fact if you're not there, the boss can't see you. And when they go to have a recommendation for a promotion and they never see you, but they see this other person, guess who might get that recommendation? It probably won't be you. So think about that aspect of it. It's a big thing. Is it fair? Yeah, probably not, except for the fact that if you want it, it depends what you want. If you want to stay home and work someplace in some far off state and everything else and expect to be treated the same, you better think about what you do from the political aspect, which is what this class is all about. We have so much technologies, including one like this. You can watch the Zoom class. I've had students watching my stuff from China, from Iran, from France, from Somalia, even, believe it or not. And so you have, it really is a wonderful opportunity. And we live in a unique place where this is accepted now in the process. I've had students watching different things at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, including being online. You're going to do that same thing in your workplace. So the benefits of remote work, better work life, valued benefit, there's less turnover, higher productivity. Some of the problems is you're by yourself. There is something to be said about developing a team and showing up. Somebody, they live in Texas and they were coming out to California to visit a couple of hospitals they're working at. I says, are you going to visit the hospitals themselves? He says, no, I don't need to see those people. I said, you need to stop in and see the people. They connect with them at least once a year. He said, I'm on online all the time. Okay, up to you. And they did it. And they have all kinds of problems, but that social isolation really is difficult. Build a team. And the problem is you have less formal communication is the only thing you do, less informal, less casual things. Hey, how's it going? You miss those kind of things. And you have lower team cohesion. Some of the contingencies, employee characteristics, you want to have people that are self-motivated. It's such a breath of fresh air to go in and have somebody just cranking out work nonstop without any direction. They come to you and say, I'm doing this. Is that okay? Okay, it's really good. Yeah, and you never thought about it. And they go back and everything else, and they feel like you gave them input. Okay, well, yeah, but you're really smart on your own. Okay, and then the people that are organized and the high need for autonomy, working and good technology skills, they have social needs outside the workplace. Those are kind of some great employees that you have. Some of the job characteristics, tasks that don't require office resources and so on, remote work, you have that. So it depends what you have. Sometimes you're lacking them, so make sure you provide that and reward performance at all levels. Now, by the way, you'll always have somebody in the organization that always squeaks and wants attention. A lot of times the people that earn awards, that earn them, okay, really are not the best employees. They're the ones that squeak the loudest, the ones that always take credit for things. A lot of times, if you're a good leader, you're going to go down into the corners of your organization and find some of the people that crank out this real serious work and reward them. Pay attention. Don't assume everything. Gather your data to make that decision. So anyhow, 3 kinds of employment. I'm going to close this section with this. Direct employment, where the employee works for the employer. Okay, you have indirect employment. A lot of times we're outsourcing different aspects of it. You may hire a company that works over here outside of the country even, and they do this over here and they're doing good work, so you leave them alone. Okay, if it's outsourced. And then sometimes you hire a firm and they bring in somebody to do your accounting. You may want to actually cherry pick that person and say, hey, you want to work for us? We'll sit down and do that over here. It happens an awful lot, but we call that contract employment, and getting the best one over there, that fabulous person over here, and bringing them into the organization. You want to have high work quality, innovation, and agility, and lower satisfaction. Some of that is with the direct employment. So pay attention to what you have. Indirect employment, there's lower job satisfaction. And a lot of times when you have the direct and indirect workers, you don't have a good, solid social network because you have a two-tier system of, well, someday I want to be a direct employee too. So you want to make certain that you have that as well. So on the behavioral anchors, there's no single solution for a problem. Part of the purpose of this class is to open your mind for other possibilities. All organizations are systems, and the more we recognize the value of the individual, the more we can develop a creative solution overall and also get more support for it. And remote working, no matter what anybody wants to speculate, is a reality at some level, where it's 1 day a week, 5 days a week, whatever it is. You're going to have contact with this no matter what happens. And know the 3 different kinds of employment: the direct, indirect, and contract. Take care.